Hello to all my demon hunters, Shadarek here, and today I have a video going over my Priory of the Sacred Flame plus 19, which was my last key for Resilient 19s that I got just the other day. Um, and just going to be going over that video and doing a commentary over it, especially because we have a very specific route where we go right instead of left, which is uncommon, and basically just going over thought processes and everything important about this run. I will note this wasn't run with my full M plus team. Um, Zari was there. We had Reamer instead of Swirl, which is pretty normal. But Tush was out, so we had Dump, and it was actually his resilient Priority 19 that we were using, and we were pugging the last DPS slot as we didn't have any of our Feral Druids. Um, and we had some failures with different pugs, and then brought in Luckily and got it first try with him on Death Knight. Without further ado, let me get this started. So, first thing you'll notice is I do have 4 cycle stacks. I stack that up before the key, and then I do I-beam, meta I-beam. That will mean my I-beam stacks are going to be consisting into the key, and I'll have that 20-second cooldown on I-beam going into the first pull. Now, we don't pull these first footmen, so I'm going to sigil a misery. Keep in mind, because you do need to be high enough to actually see the ground to place this, you can't do it from the bottom of the stairs. So I fell rush up to get it down so that my team can get through faster. And I do make sure I pick up the soul from that. I don't want to waste the soul. And then I'm going to shadow mode them off once we're all past. Now, this first pull, we do a relatively small pull in general here, but not only is it small, we also made it a lot safer because we were kind of looking at timers for like our 18 and how far ahead we were, and like we could play the key a lot safer than we had been. So I actually imprisoned the sharpshooter in this first pack. Even though this pack is tagged, that mob isn't. So this won't break out when I imprison it, because imprison was changed now. It won't break on the first like tick of damage. It has like a very small amount that needs to be dealt, but it's not going to be dealt that damage in this case. And we pull another pack up ahead, and that one's going to get parried by our monk, so that sharpshooter is kept out as well. Now, while this is getting grouped, threat is incredibly sus. I need to be very careful. I throw a Sigil of Flame just for the soul, and then I'm going to hunt onto the main mob, even though I want to kill this Arathi Knight. These two mobs together are incredibly dangerous, and really killing the Knight first is the answer because it has half the health. This is the massive lust pull, which for us really isn't actually that big of a pull. We only have 3 footmen in here, 1 sharpshooter, 1 knight, and a priest. Sorry, 4 footmen. But I throw my Reaver's Glaive, and I put my Reaver's Mark out on the Arathi Knight, and then I'm going to do my rotation from there. This first shout is happening, so I'm going to meta immune it.
Sorry, I'm getting dick pelted. My bad.
So my meta immune is used on the shout from the knight. Chaos Nova is used when the footmen start phasing here. Because I don't have my misery, I can't use my misery here. It was used to get us through to the section. Normally I'd use misery as a stop as well. Same with my imprison was used to keep the sharpshooter out, so I'm down 2 of my stops. And with Nova and meta, they're already going to be into heavy stun DR. 1 extra stun on every mob is full DR. So relying on my team to stop these 4 defends. And I think a lot of people aren't aware of how these defends work. So let me actually go back a step into here. And you'll notice they don't have a timer showing. And you see defend starts getting cast here with a 31-second cooldown. These 3 haven't cast yet. They cast when they first hit 50% health. They'll do their cute melee swing and then they'll defend. So their very first defend cast will always be at 50% health. That's when it'll happen. So it's consistent to know when you need to stop them, and then from there it's a 30-second timer. Anyway, I'm continuing to just funnel damage into this knight. We want to get it killed before it throws out another Impale Spear here. The RNG of who the Impale goes on is honestly incredibly frustrating, but with how we cut this pull down to just have the 1 sharpshooter and then get down to Suleiman, it's not really a problem. And now we'll kind of start looking at bringing in the sharpshooters when we want them. I re-CC'd just because no reason to pull it in or have it break on its own. They do have their own threat table, and the shoots that they do on your tank, if they go on regular players, it does a lot more than their pot shot. It will just kill people. It does about 9 mil. No, we won it.
And it jumped up there.
Yeah, we didn't. And I do get Blessing of Freedom here. I get asked often on my Priory videos how I'm clearing the traps. You can see the freedom tracker. I'm getting freedom from Zari because he has the double freedom talent. So he just puts it on me, and that does two things. One, if you're freedomed, this thunderclap doesn't actually damage you because it's a slow as well for whatever reason. So the damage doesn't happen. But he's more throwing it out for me to clear traps with, because that is going to kill people in this corner very consistently. Do we pull the other sharpshooter in now too, or after this time?
Hang on. I need to eat this bag.
Oh. Beware. Chain lightning is gonna decide that it's no longer CC'd.
Beware.
Now Suleiman's dead. That means the next mini boss is running down to us. Zari's gonna run up top and grab our 4 footmen. Pat dependent on whether or not that could be pulled, and then we have one more pack on our left to pull over there. It's just 2 casters and a footman. Zari solos the kicks on one of the fire casters every time, and then we rotate on the priests. Now, very important is Chainmail does this lunging strike cast. Lunging strike is she just leaps to someone in your group. It could be anybody. And when she lands at that spot, everyone in a very small AoE around her gets 20-second bleed. It does a lot of damage. You really don't want it. And that is why when this is coming out in about the last second or so, I turn away and I glide out. Double jump, glide. If she leaps at me, I will not get the bleed by doing that. And then I'm just stepping on the traps, setting my focus on the priest, and getting kicks here. Just every time I get a Reaver's Glaive here, I'm going to be spending them on cooldown, just to be funneling damage into Chainmail.
Thank you, sir.
And then I'm going to send my meta. Timers get a little bit awkward in this part of Priory. It's just kind of how it is, unfortunately. Saving my Chaos Nova here, while I'm going to use it to generate souls, the reason I've been saving it up until this point of the poll is we have kind of issues stopping the footmen consistently, so I'm saving it and using my stun once the first footmen defense go off, and then I'll use Sigil of Misery next.
Oh my god.
Now, the reason I got a bleed here is you can see the lunging strikes happening. I go very late. It's at 0.0 that I go. If I had gone, 0.1 of a second earlier, I don't think I would have got a bleed there, but it also leaped. She didn't leap onto me, she leapt onto someone else, but that was just too late. And then this is going to be somewhat dangerous. This bleed isn't the worst thing in the world because there's not really other damage going off here, but Zari gets worried because Prop Paladin's pretty squishy, and Mistweaver Smart Healing is going to be going into other people. On this one, I just backflip out because it's up convenient timing. So I backflip, wouldn't get it. It jumps in melee, and I still don't get it. I'll get the kick on that.
Ooh, a little double proc? Run away, little girl. Alive.
Oxygen, we're good.
Again, just going to be funneling my damage into Chainmail here. There's nothing really too special at this point. I'm going to skip forward as we're going to keep leaping out, and our melee team is getting bled constantly because they're just standing in.
You got dodge those?
This time. Luckily, feasting. Now, we just have to kill the footmen before we walk up, because there is a pad up here. I believe we have good pad timing. That's good. You can get through whether it's on the left or the right, but I'm saving my imprison because we do want to imprison a mob out here. Because this path's in a bad spot, if this path's back here, where it usually is when we were running this on an 18th, then we double that path into the pack behind it. Because the path's in an awful spot, we double this into one of the packs over here. Now, you're what? Sorry?
I have orange.
Okay. Bring this over. It's really not too dangerous a pull in our comp because, again, we do have 6 kicks here. Zari's going to solo one of the conjurers. We're going to have 2 people rotating on another conjurer, and then 1 person remaining gets to sit on the priest. Trying to stop every kick that we can, and then just want to burn down a sharpshooter. The sharpshooters are kind of the most dangerous thing here, overlapping with the light spawn, and they're a bitch to move. Even with a Death Knight, it's just annoying having a bunch of them out, so we kind of want to get them killed before we end up doing that pat, and that's what we're aiming for here. In this pull, I don't really have to worry too much. Purification, this is actually a meldable mechanic. As soon as the beam cast is already on you, if you meld during the cast, or the initial cast before the channel, the light spawn will just pick a new target or repick you, so you have to wait until you actually start getting purified, and then you can simply shadow meld it. And I shadow meld this for the sake of it. Didn't really see a reason to not. It's going to be the only light spawn that we fight for a while. And I get freedom, so I can look to clear any traps that are going to be too bad here. And I burned the priest down here because I didn't want to deal with having a bunch of casters, because, again, we're just swapping people in. This isn't our regular group, and interrupts had been not consistent up until this point. After that happens, we start burning down the sharpshooters. We just want to get those dealt with before we start going into the pat. Unfortunately here, I mess up. This is a downside of doing what I just did. There was an extra soul down, and I pick up the soul, which gives me a Reaver's Glaive while I'm casting this hunt. So don't have time to cancel it, and I just don't get a Reaver's Glaive off it, which is a pretty bad loss. Definitely don't want to be doing that.
What do you mean?
I'm getting fucked. Ideally on this mob, when the shot was going off on dump while he was getting sucked, if I noticed, I should have Fel Erupted instead of Annihilation there. I don't know if this mob is stun DR'd at this point or not. Because I've Chaos Nova'd and meta'd, it's very likely. I believe Reamer's leg sweep is also on cooldown here, so it's very likely fully DR'd, but I still should have done it. I could have also imprisoned and likely have stopped his death here, so that would have been good as well in hindsight. When this light spawn gets low, I'm actually going to taunt it away.
I could help on it.
Maybe I don't on this one because we don't have any mobs up. But when the light spawns get low, I try to taunt them out off the pack so that we don't deal with healing any of the mobs, because that burst of light does heal for, I think it's 30% of health. Now, coming to this next pack, we just have the one interrupt mob. Sorry, he's going to solo it, but I can just set focus and help with it. We have two sharpshooters, and we have a knight. Again, the knight puts out the very dangerous Impale Bleeds and does the shout. This first bleed that goes out, that's going to be the person that's really in danger on this pull. Because we're not doing a double here, it's just me that's going to be in danger here. I'm good for the next while, but I hold Blur, and I don't want to use Blur until this first shout. So I'm just waiting till we're closer to the shout. Darkness goes down, and I use Blur, and you can see, even with Darkness down and with Blur pressed, I probably should have nether walked this. Because what happens next is this. I take the bleed tick at the same time the shout goes off. That takes me to 62% through Blur. And I think the only reason I live here is because I'm actually blade dancing, so I do have deflecting dance up, and the shout knocks me down to 6%. This overlap is just incredibly nasty. Whoever has the Impale Bleed at the time of the shout is just going to be getting absolutely fucked. So even with Blur, it's sketchy in a 19, and if a pot shot's going off on that person, those need to be stopped. So that's like what I had really learned looking into this and like playing this pull, because we got to do this a few different times, and I definitely died here with that Impale. It's just whoever has the Impale here needs to press a button to overlap the end of the Impale and the shout. I'll stun first on this footman. Really, we should be using sack on that too in hindsight, but hindsight's 20/20. So we get another frontal that goes out here. It goes off on me, but we kill before shout, so it's fine. I'm just pressing nether for a second. I can't. Watch out, traps are real fucked. So I just sit in nether for a little bit, just to make sure I don't bleed out there. Again, I should have just used nether on the previous one, but I would have been in a sketchy spot there. It just was fucked that I got 2 of the 3 impales. Because Havoc does not deal with fizz damage well, even though it is a bleed. That chunks very hard with how much it hits per hit, and then pot shots are also physical, so it's all fizz damage in these pulls. Next, on right side, instead of having the Priestess, we have Forge Master Damian. This guy has 2 abilities. Now, they actually interact with each other. The first one is he has Seal of Flame. Seal gives him a buff for 10 seconds where he deals 50% bonus damage, and that will include his group-wide AoE, and he spits puddles on the ground for those 10 seconds. So you'll see red circles start appearing on the ground, and we need to watch our feet because it was one shot, and then he casts Heat Wave. Heat Wave is a 70% slow for 3 seconds, and a big slam of damage, but much like the first mini-boss, if you have Freedom, it doesn't damage you or apply the debuff. So because I'm getting Freedom in this key, I don't have to deal with it, although honestly, even on a 19, this isn't lethal. It will never be lethal unless you're like 80% health, so it doesn't really matter who we put it on. The bigger danger is having that massive move speed slow if you are trying to greed with circles out can be incredibly dangerous. So we need to be careful. You could see Dump there. He presses the button to remove his debuff. Same with Death Knight can just DA it. And Tiger's Lust can be used by the monk if they need it, but since it's only 3 seconds, it's typically not that bad, and it doesn't always line up.
Yeah.
So the first 2 slams are going to do a lot of damage because they happen during Seal. So once again, he's going to give himself that 50% damage buff, and then he's going to slam right out of it. We need another stop in a second here. And then we're just dodging circles. And I'm continuously spending my Reaver's Glaives, just funneling damage into the mini-boss. It's the only way to really speed up the key. Now he'll do the slam without the buff. You can see that one really didn't even hurt the group at all. Does almost no damage without that 50% damage buff on it. And then the slow falls off before the circles are on the ground. So after the first 2, he becomes just kind of a joke. He doesn't really do anything. It'll line back up later if he stays alive for a really long time, but again, in a 19 that's not happening, so it shouldn't happen pretty much any key level that you run this on.
You already know I'm on that.
Next here, we have 2 packs getting pulled together. It's 3 mobs and 2 mobs, just a priest and footman, and then sharpshooter, priest and footman. So we have 2 priests. One of them will be handled by Zari. One's handled by the rest of the group. We're just hitting the sharpshooter until we get our mini boss in, and then we swap to the mini boss because she has tons of health. This is the mini boss that's normally on the boss when you go left. The one that does the tank buster that. I guess it's a bit of a tank buster hit, but it applies the damage taken debuff, as well as does the Radiance group-wide AoE. But in this pull, because we get every priest kick and it's just one sharpshooter, it's actually really not that dangerous at all. It's just a time sink. So we just sit here, I clear traps, and we're just going to be fighting this for a while. This is what the Holy Radiance looks like. Again, it's not that dangerous.
Hell yeah.
The damage on it's just really not that high when it's the only thing it has going on. Gonna skip forward to the boss.
Finally fix it for Candle King though.
So, going towards the boss, we have this pat here, and they walk in a C shape. And anytime they're at the front here, you're not able to get through. We also have this Lynx that runs back and forth, so I always try to imprison it, just to not have that one that gets pretty close to us, and we just come straight through to the boss. Now, doing the boss in this setup, where we have Tanar Dumal instead of having Elena in, Dumal has multiple interrupts, just like a Firebolt cast that goes out on the group and does a lot of damage, but it doesn't kill. There's a Cinder Blast, which I believe is also a stun. Very long cast. Don't actually know what happens if it goes off. Never seen it happen. But he also puts the fire circles on the ground. So this makes this boss a bit more particular for the group. And because we have shadow modes on multiple people, which I'll get into later, it's very doable. However, the reason we do this and go right is because this boss with double tank busters is not really doable for Protection Paladin at the moment. It's a very squishy class, and it cannot deal with this boss in particular well. Doing it this way, where instead we have a caster, Prop Pally has double interrupts. He just sits on Tanner's dual maul and calls if we ever need to back up a kick, and it's pretty much free for him. I'll also try to call Shadow Melts. Just don't Shadow Melt randomly.
Kick.
There will only be
Okay.
overlaps. Got it. Stacking up. So, it's Ember Storm that shows up down here at the bottom. This is what we're stacking up as a group, and then going clockwise around the boss with, slowly. Now the problem is, Ember Storm has a different cooldown from Savage Mauling. So the Savage Mauling from Dalecry starts to overlap later in the fight. It won't do it yet, and it's not consistent either, because it's based on how fast you break the Savage Mauling shields, and that offsets the timer.
Back up.
And you can see that's what it looks like when a fireball goes off. Reamer gets hit with this one here. The backup call's really late, but it's 57% of his health bar.
Sorry.
We don't have any group-wide damage going out, so as long as it's not happening during a leap, that's fine. It really doesn't matter if we have that happen. Rotating. This one might overlap. Then we'll stack up again for Ember Storm. This one will be good, actually. He's going to spear first. So he does a spear, and then right after the spear, he's going to leap on somebody. Now, I press my blur on this one. That mechanic really hurts for Havoc. You need a defensive right away. I need to save my Netherwalk and my Shadow Meld, though, because, as I mentioned, there's going to be overlaps. Okay. As of this next one is when we should see the first overlap of Savage Mauling. So, really, it's just we sit here hitting the boss, and it's a lot more chill for the tank this way. And he's gonna leap in a second. Shit out of me with that one dump. I just fucking yanked it. Melding. So this is where it overlaps. Going back, I was eye beaming here, and I instantly cancel it because there's 0.1 seconds on this Battlecry cast. So I interrupt that instead, and then boss leaps on me here. And as I mentioned, Shadow Meld will just remove the Shadow or Savage Mauling from you. It will not take the shield off the boss, but that doesn't matter. You can still interrupt the boss while he's shielded. It's just a 28 million damage shield that needs to be broken. Obviously, the reason I need Shadow Meld is either we need a shitload of damage to break this before these fire circles kill me, or I need some form of an immunity, or I can Shadow Meld. So in this case, I'm gonna just hit Shadow Meld, and then we'll break the shields, and we're good to go. Gonna start skipping forward in this boss. Go forward 10 seconds.
Kick. Back up.
Kick.
That's where he does the hurl spear. And then we're going to have the leap happen right at the start of this one. We break this one before the firestorm happens. And it's going to line back up soon after this. This whole fight, I'm just basically spending my Reaver Glaives, and as always, maintaining sigil usage for high uptime or high soul generation. That's really just the only way to keep up your damage, is always keep your soul generation high. Leap's happening. Break this one fast.
Back up.
I'm gonna kick this one.
Kick.
I'm not sure if we do get another overlap on this boss.
Run away, little girl. Run away.
Watch frontal in a second here.
Beware.
And he's gonna leap after the battle cry. Okay, we don't. We had other pulls where we had a lot more overlapping than this one. Again, it's based on when you break the shields. But the other tools that we had were, again, I have Netherwalk, so I can Shadow Meld one, Netherwalk another. We have Shadow Meld on Reamer and Luckily. Plus, Death Knight could probably live that anyway if they slammed all their defensives while standing in a fire circle. And Shaman doesn't have a tool for it, but we have spell warding from our tank. So if we do get a leap on the Shaman during that, we do get one hard immunity on him that will immune the circles on the ground. It doesn't immune the leap itself, but that's fine. As long as we're immuning the circles on the ground and breaking it, it's just like normal. Good.
Send for a minute, but should be okay.
Yeah. Now we come into a church pull. So, unlike the meta comp, we don't do all 4 packs in this room, which is both sides and middle. What we are going to do here is we don't have our Ellie Ascendants in this route. We're supposed to have it, but Dump doesn't 100% know, our route as it is. So he ends up not having it up due to his usage. But we lust here, and we just focus a Paladin down. With this pull, we only have one single priest to interrupt. Zari's mostly just on that, and I try to keep an eye on it as well as everyone else is supposed to, because again, it's really all we have going on. And I'm just spamming my Reaver Glaives to kill this Paladin as fast as possible, because we do want to get the number of Paladins that we have down as soon as we can.
Drop on me.
And as soon as this one dies, I'll put a skull out on a different one. New skull? Just the lowest one that I can find. And as long as I'm in cooldowns at the start of this pull, I'm not worried defensively. I'll top myself between every toll. Pull locks each other out, so you'll see they can't cast while another one is casting. You'll see it right here, that this one starts casting, and the other one won't start casting until after. It's just one of those abilities that has a self-lockout, so there's a certain amount of Paladins that you could pull where you wouldn't even have more tolls necessarily going off, but they just evenly space out.
Kick.
It's when I'm starting to get outside of cooldowns, and if we let any cast go off with a toll where it's a problem. Letting a cast go off with a toll is basically guaranteed death for almost anybody. So in this pull, what we're doing here is we actually want to kill this priest,
Kick.
and then when this priest dies, we're going to chain into the next pack that has 2 casters, and it'll be Zari on the fire ad with us kicking on the priest, and
I'm on yellow.
just any time where I'm looking like I might get low, that's where I'm going to be looking to defensive.
Wait a second.
Pressing my hunt before I schedule a smite here. Killing star here.
Oh, quick resolution.
And you can see here, Reamer dying is because this Holy Smite goes off on circle. Probably should have been Reamer's kick, looking at it. But that or some form of a stunner stop. Just had something go wrong with our interrupts, and that's why he ends up dying. But we just get him up, and it's fine.
Kick.
He goes to 0.6% on that toll, so that was pure luck, honestly. Another toll. And the reason we're killing these casters is as soon as the Conjurer and the Priest are dead, we can go to the next pack, which have another Conjurer and Priest.
Kick.
You let us know when you're caught up. We're hitting skull for now.
Oh, we're good now.
Okay. Those are coming in a second here.
Yellow.
Kick.
Yep. I got first orange. I got next orange.
Kick.
Get next on the orange.
And then I'm going to swap the highest health target in this pack because this is the last pack before boss. So I start with going off of the new Paladin. I'm going to try and get my Reaver's Mark out on it because I was kind of soul-starved for the last while here. Coming in here. And as long as we don't let these casts go off while tolls are happening, there's really nothing dangerous here. One of the Paladins drops dead, and we're just even cleaving. Plus damage. I'll skip forward here because there's really nothing to look at.
Like use AMS on the 3s, not the 5, okay?
Now,
So
our
just
plan
use
for this boss
for the
is
5s.
Zari typically will do immunes on the 5 stacks. He bubbles the first, he spell words the second, and then bubble is back for the third of the 5 stack pyres. Because we also have a Death Knight, which we're not used to, he's going to be AMS soaking them. Typically, it would be I take 1 stack and Zari takes 2. That's what we plan on doing when we don't have a Death Knight, but because we have both, the Death Knight can just, after this Cascadator Shield, go and do that with AMS. I go to the wrong side there, and I just didn't want to risk dying, so I could have gone through, but I didn't.
On next breaks, I'll send AMC as well.
And I'm going to go through this boss pretty fast, because really, I'm just doing regular single target rotation, nothing special until later in this fight. Fire goes down, and we're going to get Castigator shielded, and then this is where Zari will bubble. I do meta immune mine, but it's just the group needs to be top before you can start.
I do get full EDR if I kick, so I'm gonna be
Although I don't even skip forward.
less damage taken is less damage taken.
I'll skip forward until we get shielded.
I'm gonna write that down.
So we're gonna get shielded here, and then AMS is going to clear the pyre. Now you're good.
I still tried to kick. It's so bad.
Now, on this next one, the reason I put a marker down is later into the fight, the hammers get closer and closer to the pyre timing until eventually he casts hammers and then casts pyre without moving. So the point of the marker is the group, except for our tank, steps back to square, and then you can go to the other side of the boss to hit. So we'll back off during the cast, then we'll go forward. Unfortunately, you don't have to back up now. Our Death Knight doesn't back up, so we just have that one pretty close. But on this one, it doesn't matter. It's the next one where it starts really lining up bad.
You're right.
This is going to be the same as the other sets, Castigator shields, and then once we're a bit more topped, spell warding is used to immune all 5 stacks. Group damage still happens, but the damage onto the tank does not. Now I'm going to skip forward again. I have the marker down. I tell everyone to step back. So we step back, and then we walk through, and we're able to just hit. Skip forward, we get Castigator shielded. Now,
I'm going.
this is where he's supposed to AMS soak, but he does it a little bit fast, and this ends up killing Dump.
I'm going.
I'm not sure why he was so stressed on timing. We had 17 seconds left to soak this, but he just kind of got spooked and did it, and then it killed our shaman. Tragic.
That was through shit.
Skip forward again, and we're going to step off again, just towards square. Step back now. And step back, we go through. We get to hit for a bit. I was a bit scared because there was a couple that were just in front of square there.
No.
And then
AMS does come back up in 3. I have touch.
instead of soaking, we're just killing the boss. Coming up top, this is very
I have big aggro. Go right now.
simple pull. My goal here is the Ellie Shaman is going to send into one of the Paladins, and they do a lot of prio damage and cooldowns, so I figure out which one he's hitting, and I hit the other one. In this case, I just said, dump, I put an X out, hit the other one, just to make sure that we had it. Sorry, he's doing one priest, we're doing the other, and as long as the kick doesn't go off during pull, we're fine. I do save my meta, because I'm used to this pull getting absolutely massacred, but the Unholy Death Knight also saved his cooldowns. One of us should have sent. I'm thinking that was a bad idea. But it's fine. We slowly work our way up, and it makes the next pull safer. When the next pull, honestly, is more dangerous than this one anyway, because we can't really get every kick in this pull. And light spawns are just incredibly dangerous.
Kick.
I'm on yellow.
We're hitting scope. We're all kicking diamond. Same thing, you can nelf the purification here, but if you are going to do it, you should do it on one that's getting Divine Tolled. If Divine Toll's not going to go off during purification, you're going to want to sit it and save that nelf for a better timing, because there's some really sketchy lineups here. Just going to blur it right here. And we're just grinding a paladin down, making sure that we're getting kicks. I pressed Shadow Meld on mine there, just didn't want to deal with it. Probably would have been a safe one, and would have been better to save my Shadow Meld, but it's okay.
I'll get meleeed.
Yeah. I'm going to taunt it off to the side, and it's going to cast. So I taunt the light spawn, and it casts Purification. Now the problem here is, I'm getting Purified during the Divine Toll. This would have been a great time for me to have Shadow Meld for. But what I should have done was realize the toll was going out and press another walk. I do die here because that beam absolutely fucks. And then toll hits for 7 mil. See, it was an 800k overkill. Oh, the toll.
You got sucked off for 1 sec. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I didn't have.
Do we win anymore?
Fine, just keep going.
I'm on purple.
Healing Circle. So in this pull, this is honestly a very fucked pull that I really hate doing. And in the future, we'll probably change how we're doing this to cut a mage out of it. We have 3 Risen Mages, which have both their volley kick and their regular fireball kick. I think you need 3 melee kicks to actually fully carry one of these. Prop Paladin can typically cover one, and then we have other various stops and things, but the idea to this pull is kill a mage really fast to make it stable, because you have 2 light spawns casting on your group and then random mage casts. So we come into it. I just call that I'm going to be killing square. Unfortunately, or sorry, not square, circle. Unfortunately, I had just lost all my Reaver Glaives, so I don't exactly have much prior damage right now.
You suck there.
And I believe I burned my darkness on this pull as well, because again, it's just a sketchy one.
T-Storm.
Kick. Kick.
And then these Risen Mages also pop when they die. All the Risen mobs do, the Footmen and the Mages. So that makes it even sketchier. The other 2 Mages are dying now, so I just swapped to the light spawns. And I go and taunt this mob out. Now, this is terrifying. Me and our Mistweaver, both of us didn't communicate this at all, and both of us should have, but we both go out to taunt it. And he has speed taunt, which means it sprints at me, but it's fine. The burst of light happens over there, and then we're just doing damage to the mobs while this one phases. Fortunately, we have Death Knight, so we can, get mobs out of there, which is something I'm not really used to.
Call your kicks. Call your kicks.
Circle. We're getting both Circle and Star. Luckily, go Star. So we just need 2 kicks per priest here. And sorry, it's going to be on the 3rd priest, the diamond one.
I'm on the new
and we're just grinding down Sir Braunpyke. Now the reason this is actually intentional, I vengeful all the way out, and then I meta away from the pack. This is so I don't stun DR any of the mobs, because if the Risen Footmen or Risen Mages are stunned or CC'd in any way when they die, they won't do their pop of damage, and it's just good to not DR these mobs whenever I can. This is a reasonable time for me to do so. Stunning because of that. But this is our Bloodlust, and we do just run this pack down as fast as we can.
Kick.
I drop Darkness, really just kind of whenever it gets a bit sketchy.
I'm full dry for the next 15, Reamer.
We have AMZ in a second.
Down?
Me too.
Not quite yet.
Yeah, MC.
Do it now.
Just do it. Yeah.
Now, these Risen Footmen are going to be popping here, so you can see that we're going to be taking damage. He tries to Thunderstorm them, but it was a little early. If they're in the air when it happens, they won't pop, but those ones did. But it is fine. Barely, but this is fine.
We don't have time anyway.
We do.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, we're 30 seconds ahead of last time. Oh, wait, fuck me.
I'm on orange. We don't have time. I'm on orange.
Kick.
So with the smite here, I could have kicked it, but
Orange.
I'm not worried about cast going off on me, especially at this point of the pull. I will just heal this damage back, so I let it go off on me, and then I get the second kick later onto that priest, just to make certain. But at this point, I am kind of scrambling timing-wise, because we are definitely behind where we should be, even though this is technically doable. This is very sketchy.
Kick.
timing sucked.
I got nothing.
Kick.
Really just hitting the paladin here. Want the paladin to die before the light spawn's going to be doing the heal, and if that happens, I don't need to do the taunt out thing, which is dangerous and has got me killed in the past, but it's better than healing an entire pack. And we lose another 15 seconds with Dump dying there, but he just kept getting picked for the light spawn, while me and Reamer both have Shadow Melt. It was really unfortunate. Unluckily. Good. We just need to push the light spawn. Light spawn's getting pushed. Just get out of that. Not kicking
Just hit the boss. Hit the boss.
Yep.
Kick.
Can be timed.
4, 3,
Not fully
2,
wrecked.
1.
I kick priest next.
4,
We're not getting overlaps too, which
Jump
is really
wall,
good.
jump wall.
1.
Unfortunately, my meta does hit the footmen there, so they are stun DR'd. Footmen onto this boss is incredibly dangerous depending on when these die. If these die while Inner Flame is going on, which it is right now, it is insanely fucked. As for personals on this boss, we had a call of don't kick the boss. Typically, when you don't kick the boss, what happens is she will cast Blinding Light before casting Inner Flame for a pretty long period of time. And that's the least dangerous that the fight can be. When that order flips and she casts Inner Flame, then Blinding Light, you're taking damage before and as it does the AoE group damage.
2, 1.
So you'll see here, she's going to cast Blinding Light, and it does quite a bit of damage.
1.
No matter what, it still just does a good little pop of damage there, and then Inner Flame going out every 2 seconds. This does a massive amount of damage to the group. So our health bars are just getting slammed, and when these footmen die, they're going to be a problem. Unfortunately, we had a stun just thrown into them there,
2,
so
1.
they got DR'd, but we stopped that last one from popping, so it's fine. This is an overlap. And this is where the overlaps start. Inner Demon, or sorry, not Inner Demon. Inner Flame is cast, and at the same time, Blinding Light comes out right after, so you can see you take a damage, then a slam, and then another take a damage. That is where you're typically going to die. It really depends on having your healer communicate what they're pressing is very helpful. But whenever that happens, really, I just try to line my Blade Dance up into the Blinding Light, because you'll save that 15% of your health from deflecting dance, and blur more or less on cooldown on that. If I can meta immune one of the Blinding Light ticks, I'll do that. And if I'm scared about dying outside of that, I am going to be using Nether Walk.
4, 3, 2.
Do we let Dump do it for
1.
DR?
Oh, I'll get the next one.
And at this point, we call for Dump to interrupt. Unfortunately, he doesn't get one here. But Shamans have a DR talent, so it would give him 15% holy DR. We'll have AMC in the next phase. We're phasing.
You want to send it on the top immediately?
No.
No. I think we use it for overlaps. This should be fine. Now,
Just lacking on
in our other priories, Tush runs double, I think it's Earth Grab Totem or Earthbind, whichever one roots mobs, and he drops one on each staircase, so both these packs get CC'd. Unfortunately, Dump's not running that, so
Just get ready
we
to,
do Ring on the
you should cap that
left,
too.
and I fear on, or sorry, Ring on the right, and I fear on the left. But they do get quite a ways in here. Fuck those ads. Back away. Back away, back away, back us away. And now we're going to have another set of ads coming in. We just kind of need to slow them and try to not have them come in as much as we can. But this is incredibly dangerous. I just kind of throw glaives as an attempt to slow and cleave with sigils. As soon as they're dead, it's fine. I get a bunch of souls. Now this is another Inner Flame into Blinding Light overlap.
1.
And I just try to make sure I hit a Blade Dance on one of the dot ticks, but we had a lot of healing from Reamer there, so pretty safe. We let Dump kick in this phase. Dump kick next. And Dump should be pretty safe in this phase with.
He shifted, so you should cocoon him on the next. I'm gonna spell word him
I
actually.
can LOS if I don't have the beam.
AMZ melee. So on this one, I use my sigil. That gives me my 8% DR from Demon Muzzle.
1.
And we have AMZ. I also Blade Dance the hit, so very healthy on that one with 8% DR, 15% health, and then another 20% DR from AMZ. Trump still gets to send 25.
And then you'll cocoon him on the next. Okay, Ruben?
4,
Yep.
3,
And I'm just worried about both survivability and our timer at this point.
3,
So this is really tight, unfortunately. I look away, I hit my Blade Dance, again, that's for the health, and drop my Darkness on that overlap. Watch Purify. Press kick, should be good.
And he presses Ascendance.
And then I'm just going to press Blur for this very last one here.
1, 4, 3,
You're sacked.
2, 1.
And with 7.5 seconds left, we time the key.
Yay!
Again, this could have been a lot cleaner. We had some sloppy deaths and
That's the
mistakes
solution.
throughout it.
All good.
But it's not like our full group that we normally play with, and it's not exactly the best comp either. That was really everything I wanted to go over, though. That was, my thought process and everything behind the Priory, our pain points, and where you really need a defensive. Again, because it's a going right route, some of it doesn't apply, but a lot of the pulls are very similar, if not the same. You have some very similar pulls on the right side compared to the left. The mini bosses are different, but the mini bosses are honestly not really any of the hard parts in this dungeon. So that was all for today. Thank you for watching. If you enjoy this kind of content, please leave a comment letting me know if there's anything that could be improved. Same thing. Leave a comment just letting me know. Consider liking this video if you enjoyed, and if you like my channel, I'd appreciate any subscriptions. Just feel free to subscribe and get alerted anytime I upload a video. For now, have yourself a great rest of your night. Thanks for watching.